Yeah. Yeah. I know they mad for no reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Gotta move fast for a reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Huddling, I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling, I'm staring at charts until I retire. Oh, 700K, I'm selling a Bitcoin. Haters mad, but they listen to this one. More profit coming to my direction. Yeah, you know me, I don't need a mention. I got the remedy, ooh, yeah. They don't just follow me, ooh, yeah. You say allegedly, ooh, yeah. You would subscribe to me, ooh, yeah. Staring at chart, drawing a line. Make a decision, you out of time. Huddling, huddling, huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling, huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Stay on stage. OnChain Revolution. Guns. Boom.
Welcome back to OnChain Revolution. My name is Shizzy. On this channel, we cover the entire crypto ecosystem. What's up, guys? We have an amazing show for you guys today. We're live from the OnChain Hour, and today's show is going to be absolutely amazing, guys. So we are live pretty much everywhere right now. We're live on Pump Fun today, as well as many other places: YouTube, X, Spotify, Kick, Twitch, Zora. Shout out to everyone over on Zora as well. We got Bitcoin sitting at 88,000. Today is what TradFi calls the quad witch. It is absolutely it's like their perfect day because they actually get a lot of volatility today. It's when a lot of these options expire across the board. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into Raoul Pal basically saying that he kind of broke down what happened on 10/10 and going to get his conclusion there as well. And on top of that, David Sachs says January will be the month of the crypto structure bill. We'll get into that. DraftKings launches a predictions market, but it's not on the blockchain. We'll get into that as well. A lot of amazing stuff to talk about today. But but first, let me bring in my partner here, as always, Mr. Yagobi. What's up, buddy?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
What's up, man? How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, man. It's Friday. Gonna play some golf a little bit later today. Gonna kind of get my mind a little bit away from things, but I feel like we could be, hitting some momentum. Hopefully, today was the scary day of Japan raising their rates, and actually it was late last night. But it seems like Bitcoin is not really too phased from that just yet, right? So excited about the possibility of getting some momentum finally, because that's what we need is some damn consistency. Can't even talk, but that's what we need, in my opinion, is getting some positive consistency. And I'm just maybe too optimistic because maybe Christmas is next week. That's why.
Yeah, 100%. And just so everyone know, we are taking off Christmas Eve and Christmas. We will not be live those days. But let's hop into, we are live officially on Pump. So we previously tested this out prior, but as of yesterday, we kind of launched the thing over there, but we launched it to stream, and that's kind of what we're using it for. Shout out to all you guys, man, who want us to pay DEX. It seems to be something that everyone is yelling at us about. Pay DEX. I feel like you guys have an affiliate program with DEX or something, because everyone in the comments right now is like pay DEX. But if we do reach the $330, which is insane, by the way, today's live stream, we will pay DEX with that money, 100% of it, 100%. So really appreciate you guys. Yeah, again, another comment. No need to wait for DEX. Yeah, Jim there, buddy. Why don't you trade some but
yeah, I mean, honestly, like, guys, you guys know kind of where the market is, right? So this is just another avenue that we are, jumping into to help us continue on the show, right? So any support in that way of earning creator fees, we appreciate very, very much. And so not just there. We're streaming everywhere though, right? Zora, as well as, you know, all the other platforms that Shizzy went into. And we're here, you know, no matter rain, sleet, or snow, except for Christmas Eve and Christmas this year. First time we're taking off Christmas Eve, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. Because, you know, it's not gonna I do feel bad. I love myself, Blazing Bandit. We want you guys to go spend time with your families. Don't watch us on Christmas Eve. Stimmy checks sent to people in military, myself says. Yeah, I don't know how much that's gonna be like translate to our space at all. Or do you think any of that military money is going to translate to our space?
Maybe some. You know, I was in the military, and I know that like there is a lot of people whenever you're, you know, full time or whatever, like you are looking for ways to be able to, you know, invest and stuff like that, because, you know, when you're in the military full time, they cover your, you know, room and board. If you get married, they give you like a stipend for housing and stuff like that. So you do have some extra money. And so whenever you do get a little extra money, I do think that there's quite a bit of military people that are trying to figure out, okay, where can I put this to make more? Now, maybe not the crypto markets this year, right? Because a lot of retail have been kind of avoiding that. And so, but we'll see. You know, more than anything, I think it's a good morale boost, though. We need it to start from even like just the ground at this point, right? Like you just need it to be the basically society in the US, right? Have some positive morale, extra money in my pocket. And if we can keep that momentum going, then, you know, we'll start to feel like, okay, there is more liquidity around, you know, whether the Fed is injecting more or not. You got to change the psychology too, right? Of the everyday person. So
yeah, 100%. And shout out to my guy Ryan, Blazing Bandit. He says, subscribe and share. Let's all learn together, my guy. Appreciate you. He says ETH Bitcoin or ETH-B, Ethereum on base, 73%. Is that real? I don't know.
wow, arbitrage opportunity, I guess.
No, I think that's a token.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, up 75% on the year from started the year over $4,000. Blazing Bandit says Santa Rally. So can we chalk up the Santa Rally at this point?
No, we can't chalk up the Santa Rally because you know why? Santa goes out the night before Christmas all through the house, right? There's basically okay, like I'm just saying that because that's usually when he drops the presents off. But I think you could go up to 2 business days before Christmas Eve.
So TradFi does not participate after today.
Yeah,
TradFi closes at 4 p.m. We will not see them until the 28th.
Yeah, but it will be. But that's not. We just care if our area gets going a bit, right? But 2 days
is our pump and dump, bro. Like there is no crypto people here. Like
yeah. But I get what you're saying. I'm just saying like crypto markets are still open, right? So they might not be, but crypto markets are still open. So if you're telling me there's a chance, then you know. I'm probably not going to happen.
0% chance that we have any type of rally. What would you consider a rally? Like, I guess that maybe
Bitcoin
that's
getting to 100K, and I think that's going to be a really hard task, right? So trying to get Bitcoin to 100K before next Wednesday. I mean, we've seen it happen in that span of time, but it's different. It was different. It was different moment, different sentiment a bit, right? Even though this year hasn't been great sentiment, there's been moments to where people were, you know, there would be like spurts of it, like at least for Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? But October 10th really took the wind out of like any of that we had, right? We didn't have any of that really for the alts. It was really the majors, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of the majors. That's even gone.
Yeah, 100%. Let's get into our major topic today, which is Bitcoin on the edge, shaky price action, strength next, or total breakdown ahead. I'm going to kind of say it. I think today we're going to get into the quad witch stuff and the Japan rate hike. But I think going into next week, I do think we're going to see a huge sell-off from Bitcoin. I see going into the end of the year, I see Bitcoin getting close to that 80,000 range. Kind of hitting that before the end of the year. But I think that sets up the 2026 very well. But I do see a crash going down at least 10% for the end of this month.
Do you feel like it's just going to be kind of a swinging back because we are swinging kind of to the upside again. It's basically been a pendulum swing this entire week, right? So even if we do get back over 90, let's say, which would be a little abnormal, is Friday going into the weekend. Let's say we cleared 90K going into Saturday. We're not going to expect too much on Saturday, right? So it would just be back and forth Saturday, maybe on Sunday. But you're saying if we do get a little bit of love this weekend, you expect all that to kind of peel back next week.
So there's a thing called tax loss harvesting, right? That usually happens the last week of December. What happens is you're able to sell down, and you basically take if you had any winning trades this year or you're up on any investments, you're able to basically take that down with your losses. So let's just say somebody bought Bitcoin at 120, they're sitting here at 88,000. They potentially could sell, take that 20,000, and take that against the win, right? I think you're going to see a lot of tax loss harvesting from the guys and the companies that bought Bitcoin above 100K, right? Because now what happens is now they wait 30 days, they're able to repurchase that same asset late January and then play again, basically.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we're going to see tons of tax loss harvesting, because you got to remember Bitcoin was for 6 to 7 months was above 100K, and now it's not. So a lot of people that were buying up there can officially potentially tax loss harvest some of that against some of their wins, against their Nvidia wins, against their Google wins. And I think that happens for the first time really this year, because this is 2025 was a year of TradFi buying Bitcoin and buying that ETF.
Yeah, and this is a major strategy that TradFi uses, right? So there's a lot of things that are saying that we probably won't get the rally that everybody wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I will say there was something that you and I were talking about pre-show about do we get a little bit of a pass here, right? Because one of the people that we both highly respect is Tom Lee, just because he was an OG that was calling $100,000 Bitcoin in when was that? Maybe like 2022 or something, and they laughed at him and all those things. But he did call for a pretty high forecast for Ethereum to end the year. I think upwards to even 9K. I definitely heard 55 to 7,000 by the end of this year. And his response now to that is October 10th. October 10th. He pretty much knows who's behind it. He's not going to say that verbally. But for me, I'm somebody that was in the boat with Tom Lee about Q4 being really aggressive to the upside. And so do I get a pass, Shizzy, of forecasting that Q4 was going to be amazing? Or does everybody get to kind of walk by me and spit on me and say you're POS?
No, so we had a black swan event. That's like saying, COVID was technically a black swan event. It's like saying, hey, you were wrong about Bitcoin during that time. Yeah, Bitcoin went from 10,000 to $2,000, right? 2,800, 2,900 during that. And it's impossible to predict, right? When there's a black swan event. So I got to throw everything out the window. And what that does potentially, that basically blocks Q4 completely, right? So anything that possibly could have happened in Q4 now gets pushed back to, I was saying that I'm thinking Q2 could be the top of this cycle. Now I'm kind of saying Q3 of 2026 is the top, because I feel like Q4 was a wash where, all momentum got washed out and we got to build that back up again.
Yeah. And you're hearing people like Tom Lee say Q1, he's expecting $150,000 to $200,000 Bitcoin. I'm not really sure why he's so aggressive with kind of putting a forecast out there, but maybe he does feel like at that point we'll be healed. There's going to be a lot more liquidity friendly type of environments, and we get there, right? So,
yeah.
But a lot of us are, saying that 2026 is going to be a better year. And you got people like DJ Clitty Litter, OG for sure, from the Bitcoin ecosystem. By the way, something's different about Shizzy today. Can anybody point that out? And he says, let's agree, none of us have a crystal ball. I can't agree with that. I have a couple of crystal balls. No, I'm just kidding. And he says this SHIT is volatile. And then we got Mr. Sheedy, also an OG community member, says up and down. We said up and down.
You up and down. You up and down. Shout out to you. Shout out to Stan too. Says Brian Armstrong dropped a bomb with the system update. was a release because of Gary Gensler's exit. So it's been something they've been building for a while. They're partnered with Kalshi, so they're really just integrating their partners into their app. So I don't know if this was a big deal. Shizzy Platinum Grill. I don't have.
How'd you
Platinum
know,
Grill.
man? He got that Johnny Dang, then that Johnny Dang grill, man.
The Pow
from
Wow,
Houston.
the people's champ.
It's Pow Wow, baby.
All right. Let's kind of get into some other stuff here. So the Bank of Japan increased overnight rate by 25 bips to 0.75. This is the first hike since January of this year, bringing interest rates the highest in Japan's 30 years. Pretty nuts here, but I feel like this was baked in. I feel like the Japan carry trade was something that was really looked at as a reason for the dump beginning of this year, January, February, March. And I feel like a lot of investors got out of that trade. They weren't waiting for this one to get out, right? They saw the writing on the wall. This was kind of already baked in. We do know what happens when stuff is baked in. We see it makes it look like a big nothing burger. This feels like, it was like 11 o'clock last night when I got the notification on my phone that said this happened. No price movement whatsoever from Bitcoin in that time frame. We did see the DXY jump up though, which I didn't like to see. The DXY really moved on that news, which basically means people are going from the Japan dollar to the US dollar, or the Japan yen to the US dollar. So that was like the only movement that I seen, and I was paying attention to that because if you guys watch the show, I want the DXY to get under 96, and now we're closer back to 99. So that was the one thing I didn't like about it. But are you seeing anything from your side, timeline wise, or anything about this?
No, but the charts that we looked at before in terms of the cause and effect of Japan increasing interest rates I think they were based, they were maybe a monthly chart that you pulled up previously,
Yeah.
right? It was a monthly or weekly, so minimum weekly time frame. So it was a zoomed out approach. And so I think we got to give it, at least until the end of next week. Now, because some people are thinking that we're going to have a pullback next week regardless, because of Bitcoin being not really being stable to the upside. This interest rate could get credit maybe that where it's not due necessarily, right? And so it's going to be interesting to see how next week plays out. And then because there are a couple things that are pointing towards Bitcoin going down, whether it's the cause and effect from the interest rate hike or just because Bitcoin's not being stable to the upside, constantly swinging back and forth. So
I agree. 7.1 trillion worth of U.S. stock and ETF options expires today. The largest triple witching event, quad witch or triple witch, is a quarterly expiry index futures, index options, stock options, and single stock futures. It can spike volume and volatility. So I was listening to some stock guys this morning, and they were excited. For them, a lot of them, this is their last day of trading. They won't trade Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday because there's going to be there's going to be no volatility at all. For traders, that is when you kind of chalk that up and you spend time with your family. It's kind of what I'm getting from the TradFi guys. So today is their last day of trading, but it is the day that they make the most money. They said it happens 4 times a year, and on those 4 times a year, they normally make the most money or lose the most money depending on the direction of the trade. But it's their new year, man. It's their day today.
Yeah. And from the past couple holidays, right, I feel like there's been like degen energy that has been around for Christmas time, right? But this might be the first one in 3 years that we don't feel that, right? It's going to be a little eerie, in my opinion, if we don't see some kind of degeneracy in the trenches or something, anything, right? Because you could go back to 2023, we had it in the Bitcoin ecosystem. People were messing around with BRC20s at that time. They were getting really hot going into 2024 holidays. You had, of course, like the Solana tokens, and Runes had a resurgence, right? So you like us not having like kind of this energy during the holidays is going to be weird, right? So we'll see next week, but in terms of TradFi, they're just playing it kind of how they always have with their playbook, right? So it's going to be, I guess, with them quiet, and I guess possibly quiet for us too over here.
Well, 2022 was a bear market year. We didn't have any type of bump. I mean, it was down only. A lot of tax harvest selling then, but people were selling the bottom. which could be very similar to what's happening right now. If you sold in December for tax loss harvesting or whatever it was, and you didn't buy in, you sold the bottom. You and didn't participate in the rally of the next two years, right? So I feel like this year, according to the chart here, Bitcoin was a negative year, right? Ethereum was a negative year. Ethereum in December 31st was over $3,000, and it's looking like potentially it's going to close the end of this year below $3,000. So crypto had a negative year all around, no matter what anyone wants to tell you. Bitcoin had a year where it was above 100K, but nothing else was moving, right? So that hurt the whole ecosystem. What happens in 2026? Could we have a potentially 2023 year where Bitcoin just goes up the whole time? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever going to be a year where it's upward trajectory the entire year, but like majority, there's a possibility. There's a lot of people that are, hinting at you got CZ posting about super cycle as well, right? So you got some big players and pundits in our space that are saying 2026 is the year for digital assets, because every other asset class had a pretty strong moment in 2025, at least one or two. Sure, you can say Bitcoin had a couple moments of strength getting to 126, but I think majority of anybody that was forecasting Bitcoin's top in 2025 would say something higher than 126. You know what I mean? Whether it's 140, 150, 180, 200, they were all over the place, but they were all above 126 from whatever. Of course, you had your one-off bears here and there, or like the bear group, right? That was different. So you're right. It just wasn't a good performing year for the digital asset space. But that goes into the point of extending this cycle into 2026 and hopefully having a much better year, because the administration needs to catch up a bit. The people that benefited the most were the people that had money to be able to either buy the ETF, Bitcoin, or some of these like blue chips. There were people that did make money that were degenerates and leverage early on, but they obviously, we know what happened to them eventually. And then the stock market too, for the most part, unless you're really, just on top of it and you're using margin over there to trade some of the stuff. But the regular blue collar people are hurting. And so I think this year coming up, they need to do something to make a statement.
Yeah, and everyone's trading prediction markets. Everyone's doing leverage. Everyone's doing all this stuff to potentially, I don't get it, dude. Our space has become, it's not a fun place. It's not a fun place anymore, for sure. We'll see what happens in 2026. But DraftKings Predictions is here. So they have a separate app now that will allow you to trade predictions markets, very similar to Kalshi, very similar to Polymarket. There is one key difference. It is CFTC regulated event contracts routed to exchanges like CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Trades settle on exchange clearing rails, not a public blockchain with wallets, hashes, and smart contracts. How do you feel about DraftKings now getting into prediction market, but not in the same way Kalshi and Polymarket is?
It was inevitable that they were going to join, this new product and the new way of doing things. And it also shows the influence that Polymarket and Kalshi and just predictions markets has, right? Because they basically forced an industry to get into a product that they created. Now, they're not using blockchain technology, so that's the major difference. And they're going to take this centralized approach. And we'll see how long that lasts, right? Because, there's been trust issues in the past with online casinos, like in the early 2000s, online poker websites and all these things where people either, got caught cheating with algorithms, software cheats and stuff like that. And if they're going to be centralizing the predictions markets, that means like obviously all the data, all the changes and stuff is going to be in-house and not going to be shown to the public. So the public won't even know. Does that catch up to them? We saw a little something that you brought up yesterday with JP Morgan wanting to do a private blockchain before, and now changing their stance on that and saying, no, we're going to actually build on a public one. And I think it has to do with being the anomaly, or like sticking out like, like a sore thumb, in the sense of why are you doing this trying to keep everything private. It's weird. While all these other competitors are saying, hey, all of the information's on the blockchain, you can check it.
Well, JP Morgan did it because of users, right? They just weren't getting nobody was signing up for their wallet, right? Nobody was using JPM chain, so their stablecoin couldn't get any traction, right? No one,
Yeah, but
you know,
they have millions and millions of banking customers that they can try to onboard. You know what I mean? And so I don't know, unless they came out with a statement or something about that,
well,
because I feel
they
like
want they want to make revenue off the JPM coin. How do you do that? Well, you need people to add it to liquidity pools. You need people to do this. If everyone's just doing it on JPM, JPM is going to have to add their own liquidity to everything. It's not going to be regular people, so they're not going to make any money, right? Because it's already their own money, so they can't go and buy. You know what I mean? They can't go and buy the stuff, whatever. Need other people to kind of go and buy this coin up, so they're and add liquidity to stuff. So for them, being a stable coin, it was almost inevitable, right? This can still be their gas token, but you need to have it on every chain.
So I think it's smart that they're doing it this way, but like they have access to millions of customers and their capital, and they do fractionalized banking like everybody does in America, right? So they're lending it out in the traditional ways, which they're fine to do. And so I think where it makes sense probably for them, they were like, okay, we can't use their money for this because this is new. We don't know how it's going to go and stuff like that. Plus, it's illegal for them to do. They only can do it within the banking system.
Allowed.
They can do it in the banking system way to do it, right? And so they can have two options. One, try to onboard the millions of customers that they already have, which they could do that. But why would you do that whenever you can just open it up, like you said, to anybody that wants to just drop liquidity in there? There's no liability because these people are just coming by and saying, I want to earn off of this JPM liquidity pool or whatever, right? And so they can actually leverage their brand probably better that way, in the sense of just any day person swing by and say, okay, well, JP Morgan's strong brand, let me add there.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, let me if you're rich, right, you can take $1 million worth of JPM coin, $1 million worth of USDC, and make 6 to 8% yield on a Uniswap liquidity pool, right? There's people in the PYUSD USDC liquidity pool were making 14% earlier this year. It's come down now that they added more liquidity in there, but it was up to 14% on 2 stablecoins. So that's another way. But the banking system isn't allowed to take your dollars and put it on chain, wrap it with another stable coin that is from another company. Like, they're just not allowed to do that, right? If it's their own money, if it's JP Morgan money that they've borrowed from the bank, because we do know that they borrow from the Fed, right, at interest rates. So if it's their own money, then they have to justify to the Fed that, hey, like, yeah, we're putting this on the blockchain, like, we might
I don't think the
it.
Fed I don't think the Fed's
So
gonna
the
like
Fed's
that.
gonna be like, nah. So I think once they wrap their head around, like, yeah, well, who the hell is gonna be doing this? They're like, oh, well, hold on. There's a whole country of Asia that would love to earn yield on our token. Let's open it up to them, right? With with everything. So
yeah, and maybe they were a little overconfident too, because they just thought everybody would just flock to it, the private chain or whatever they were going to have. But they pivot, and that's what big companies do. They pivot to make the right decision.
But going back to DraftKings here, they are using the Chicago Mercantile Exchange as a third party, right? So Chicago Mercantile Exchange, they get paid to take these contracts in, and so but they're a third party. So yes, they're getting paid from DraftKings, but they're liable by the reputation
Mistakes
to
and all
make
that
sure that there's no mistakes or anything like that. And if they see fraud, by law they have to report it by law, but it doesn't mean.
Yeah.
At least with blockchain, we got Zach XBT. If there is any fraud, that normally his team finds it, right? So,
well, and plus, like, if there is a mistake, then they can fix it, right? Without.
well, that's it. They call up, say, "Yo, there's a problem here," and then
Yeah.
they change the paperwork and get everything good. But all right, last thing here before we get into the Bitcoin price action, Raoul Pal put out this thing yesterday, and I thought it was really good. It's really about what happened 10/10. He said, when I distill down October 10th, I get this. Binance broke. The world's largest exchange, the API, shut down for market makers. Everyone got liquidated. Most market makers were not able to backstop liquidity. It spread across exchanges. Those exchanges that have their own market makers or the ability to backstop prices probably absorbed a huge amount of liquidation in the small caps, and majors. Someone had to step in. The equity flash crash in 2010 was similar. That inventory, much like on a larger market making desk or market or program trading desk in equity, has to be unwound and to reduce the extra risk when they took on. There has been tens of billions of backstop liquidity to unwind, some at huge losses, some at amazing profits. This is not market manipulation. If was any, it was in the backstopping of prices when the market makers couldn't do technical issues. This is what we are seeing today in my mind. Those that backstop the liquidity need to de-risk in program trading. We would see the same everyday liquidations to average out over time and reduce impact as much as possible. Things are not liquidity right now, so it has a large impact. Year-end audits or market liquidity constraints around year-end mean there is a lot needs to get finished now. This too shall pass. So I think he means liquid. There is not liquid right now. Liquidity right now. So basically, what you take from this? Him basically coming out and saying, this is something that happened in TradFi in 2010. So it's not like, it's never happened before.
Yeah, I think he's just saying this is, the reason why we're feeling it even more because we're not in a very liquid environment too, right? So it's kind of like the liquidity that we had got flushed out October 10th, and now we got to fix that. And to be able to fix it, you got to go through pain. And I think that's what he's stating there. So, was that why we didn't get the Q4 that we wanted? I think some people even, I think YouTube, even before October 10th, were thinking maybe we get like some sort of rally, but not super aggressive. So it's kind of like, feels worse because we probably weren't going to get a crazy pump anyways, but we were going to get one. And now we don't get one. It's like, and we're still feeling it from October 10th. I mean, that is the obvious answer there, right? And accountability. I brought this up on the show. Accountability is not being really the priority for that event, which is really weird to me. But some people are saying that down the road, it's going to catch up and to whoever was a part of it, right? The biggest focus now is getting things back to more of a liquid environment and how long that's going to take.
Yeah, I mean, he says Binance broke. I mean, that's the first thing he said here. Binance broke, the API shut down, and market makers. And he said like the ones that backstopped their liquidity, they're in profit.
Yeah,
a lot of them are in profit. The ones that did not, the ones that did not, they got liquidated, losing everything. So right now, this is kind of what I'm hearing is that the people who are in a lot of profit, they can't dump that all at once, right? So that is kind of why you're seeing Bitcoin go up to 91, get smacked down to 87. They come in, and when there's liquidity entering, they come in and they take that out, right? And the people that are hurt, or the market makers that got really hit, they are looking for new funds to re-enter the market. So you're seeing a de-risking of assets, but no risking of assets because they're out of money. So like that's
and one is it's like
situation.
Almost, yeah. And then with the way that they were trying to exit too was, obviously through stablecoin too eventually. And it reminds me of whenever we had Jeff, the founder of Merlin Chain, on, and he, was talking about there's a queue almost of like, large entities trying to, take stable coins off of chains, right? And basically have capital back into their accounts or whatever. And that was obviously after October 10th. And that was a queue where people were waiting. It makes sense exactly what you were saying, though, because it's like for these people that are trying to de-risk and they made money, you have to have the other people come up with the money to kind of be able to, it's like an ordering book, right? When you're talking about those type of large amounts of money in a dry, liquid, not super liquid environment, right? And so now I think that's gotten better. Probably, finding more money to come in and be able to get some of this de-risking happening. And then what you need to do is reset the table in a sense, right? So to where these guys don't want to continue to de-risk anymore because they feel like, okay, now, the table's been reset. Bitcoin's pretty cheap, 80K, et cetera, all right, now both sides, you want to get both sides in on, okay, where's our entry? You know what I mean? instead of just the one that couldn't find money. You know what I mean? So we're all hoping for that type of situation at the beginning of next year, leading into, you know, giving us a good start to 2026. Because I'll tell you what, man, like the start to 2025 just like stunk. There was something about it that just didn't like smell, like feel good. It started with the Trump coin. You know what I mean? And I think like the perception was there though that it was going to be a good year.
The first month of January was awesome. I remember
I
there was
don't
a
think
lot
so.
of
Towards the end of the year, it was like, or sorry, end of the month.
We were waiting for the 20th, right? Trump to get into the 20th. So the Trump coin didn't launch to the 20th, right? So it was like a week after inauguration day or something. So it was like the 27th or 26th. So you know, but that first couple of weeks we had so much hope.
Yeah.
For getting a
First couple of weeks was okay.
That's what I mean. Really good.
But,
I mean, the
but
AI
the end
stuff
of
was
the
really
month
booming.
Was horrible. Like everything collapsed at one time. Like the AI stuff too, because like if you remember, by then, like jumping over to, you know, virtuals was a bit too late because a lot of the virtual stuff happened in November, December, and you know the Solana AI stuff also happened in November and December. So by the time you're talking about the middle or late January, a lot of those market caps were coming back down. Trump coin launched. Everybody's portfolios were bleeding out into trying to get into Trump.
I think you're talking about more of like the last week of January, but the first 3 weeks of January, I got in the brain at like 800K, right? Not to like 4 million, right? Like there was so many opportunities. These new projects were launching, and you know, but if you didn't take profit on them going into February, you effed yourself, right? So, but the first 3 weeks of January were absolutely amazing. Everything after, going up until, I mean, honestly, everything after, unless you got into Ethereum at 1300, everything after sucked.
Yeah, but like even the virtuals ecosystem at that point, it was sure going from 800,000 to 4 million. I mean, if you take a lot, you know, a pretty good size position, then you can make a decent amount. But like it just wasn't the same as like a really bullish type of situation where you're taking coins to 20, 50, 100 million, like in at the end of 2024, right? Or you know, at the end of 2023 for the Bitcoin ecosystem, right? So that's what I mean. And of course, like the continuation of it. And I think people like us, you and I probably felt like because the first couple of weeks of January was pretty good, it was heating up and it was still kind of like carried over. And we're like, okay. And then all of a sudden, like the last week from that point to February was just nasty, right? And then people were feeling weird because you had Trump just, you know, launched that token, the Trump token, and then Melania and one after another and Libre and all these things. And it was kind of like, dude, this doesn't feel right, you know? So hopefully that changes.
If you can pinpoint in the trenches when that happened, you can see like that's kind of when everything died. You did have a resurgence a few months later with
Farcoin.
Well, with Bonk, right? Bonk came out, and then Farcoin started happening, right? And then Bonk actually got some traction and actually was number one for a little while. So like that was all kind of like the same time Ethereum was moving from 1300 to 45. I think it hit. I think it almost hit. I think all-time high was what 50 something. I can't remember at this point, but yeah, hit an all-time high and then came back down and barely passed the all-time high, but. For sure. All right, let's kind of get into the Bitcoin price action and crypto bubbles. Curious to how you feel going into this weekend. I think what's going to happen though during this price action, you're going to feel like everything's going to go bullish, and right around 1 to 2 o'clock, I think TradFi is going to come in and nuke their markets because that's kind of what happens on a quad witch. You long it up, you short it down. So I'm curious if maybe you see something like that maybe in the charts a little early going into this 12 o'clock hour.
Yeah. But before we get into the price action, guys, help us out on the YouTube side. Smash that like for us and turn your notifications on and subscribe to the channel. All that great stuff. Same thing with X. Let's hit that like as well. Make sure you're following us too. If you are new to our channel from the Pump Streams, go to X, follow us at OnChain Rev. That helps us out a ton as well. But yeah, shout out to all you guys, Pump Streams, Zora as well. And we announced yesterday we are working with Pyro, which is a new project that is launched originally on the Believe app and used Migrate Fun, and so they migrated over to Pump, but they help streamers kind of get more exposure and stuff like that. They're an awesome team. But yeah, shout out to all you guys in all the platforms that that watch us and support us. But let's get into some Bitcoin price action here, starting with the hour chart. Let me pull this up really quick. All right, I think this is good to go. Okay, let's take a look here. All right, so definitely looking pretty good on the way back up here, but I do think we might be getting a little bit faked out. And, wouldn't be too shocked if we, end up having one of those typical Fridays that start off good and then they just end the week crappy. But let's see how it wants to go for the next 4 to 6 hours. As of right now, we are extending this buy pressure session, so that's a good sign. We're also above the overbought territory by a little bit. We're sitting at the 84-point mark, and that 80-point mark is the official overbought territory. You can see this blue fast line. If we get this to kind of point upwards, right? But we do need that to stay dark green. We could have another candle, maybe even a little bit larger in green for the next one here on the MACD. As of right now, though, it is showing maybe we're getting broken down a little bit here. So I would be careful if you're going to try to play this any type of way, which I think most traders that have experience right now are kind of observing more than anything. But yeah, so it really depends on how we look right here. If we can get an extension of this buy pressure and then we have an aggressive continuation, get to 89, possibly 90, we could have a good price action heading into the weekend. But look at these volumes, man. It's just not very high here. Let's take a look at what's happening with support and resistance here for Bitcoin, at least on the hour chart. Okay, going to 7 a.m. Eastern here, you can see at the 88,500 support is barely winning in this area. Very low volume though, right? So if we get some large buy bids, push us up here, that'd be good. And we are pretty much dominating the entire way until you get to really just an entire way, right? If we get back to 89,400, that's kind of where it battles back to balance. So, there's an opportunity to push back up here. I wonder if we take that, right? So you can see if we get some aggressive buy bids, we could definitely kind of range up and get back to 89,500, right? And then we're thinking about the next objective is to get to 90 and break that threshold there. Where the highest volume is on the hour chart is the 87,900, so right below 88, and resistance definitely kicking butt there. So we don't want to lose control to where it starts to flip, and it really starts to flip right very close. And it's again a lower volume area, but it does pick up from where we are right now. And this is where it starts to flip to resistance, right? So 88,375, and then it goes all the way until this area 87,900. So what we don't want to do is lose control here, because then we could really kind of free fall. So that's kind of the objective, right, for Bitcoin for the next 2, 4, 6 hours, is to work our way up here in these lower volume areas. Hopefully some larger purchases come in and helps us kind of move up that ladder. So that is what's going on for Bitcoin on the hour chart. If you look at the 4-hour chart, the 4-hour chart looks pretty good. We did have a beautiful extension here on the MACD. You can see the fast line also looking like it wants to point upwards, right? And we did work our way back after this nasty 4-hour candle. Goodness gracious, this was disgusting last night, or yesterday morning, actually, I should say. This is one 4-hour candle that was just nasty. And then you can see we did build back up there though, right? So yeah, if you're looking at the indicators, the momentum indicators look pretty decent on the 4-hour. Not super excited though, because let's say that we do get back to like 89.5, 90 heading into Saturday. As I mentioned earlier, not expecting too much for a Saturday, especially kind of holiday season, right? But that means not expecting aggressive to the downside either. So which is kind of more chop tomorrow if we do, work our way to 90. And then Sunday, I think we get a rebalance and a reset. So that's where we are on the 4-hour as well. Let's take a look at the daily. Daily, pretty good for the buy side. It looks like this week's sell pressure might end soon, especially if we get back to 90. We can kind of close this out. What does that look like for the weekend? I don't really love that if we are trying to start a buy pressure session on like a late Friday or whatever, right? If we close out of this, but I'll take it. But yeah, so that's where we are on the daily. And then looking at Ethereum here, just kind of ignore these right here, but going to the hour chart, you can see, let me reset this. Hour chart, right? So the extension on the buy pressure, it looks like it's ready to close a little bit quicker than Bitcoin. So it's still going to be following Bitcoin though, right? And I think 3,000 is obviously that threshold that we've been talking about the past 2 weeks, and we're right there, right? So if Bitcoin decides it wants to go back to 90, we're definitely going to go back above 3K for Ethereum. Taking a look at the 4-hour, we didn't have the crazy extension that we saw on Bitcoin, but we do have a pretty strong buy pressure session. In fact, it's almost, it's about half the length of what we saw for Bitcoin. So it is a bit behind Bitcoin in terms of, turning the engines on if we do go up, but I do expect us to definitely go back above 3K if that happens. And then we'll go over to the daily. The daily wants to close out too. So very similar to Bitcoin, right? Ethereum is basically just taking its cues at this point from Bitcoin. So that's what we got for Ethereum and Bitcoin. And now looking at the top 100 alts, right? So some stuff here that's sticking out is Mix. Man, Mix is always being pretty aggressive one way or the other, right? So it's either a 10, 12% pull back up or a 10, 12% pull back down. We're close enough to 10% here, but Mix is one of those tokens that the protocol doesn't really get mentioned too much, probably because it's not used as much, but it is a perps dex that runs on BSC, right? And it's obviously overshadowed by Aster, right? So and then you got Zcash bouncing back up here 10%. So privacy looks like it is back in the green. You got Dash at 1.2% pulling back up, Ethereum barely at 1% up, Aster up 3.1%, Meme Core pulling back about 14% there, Aptos up about 6%. What else do we got here? Bitcoin Cash up 4% there. Pepe up 3%. You got XMR, so another privacy coin in the green. But you can just kind of cluster some of these together, just because, like, for the most part, we're looking at about a 65 to 35%, 65% green, 35% red type situation here, and nothing's really sticking out too much in terms of, wow, what's happening there type of situation. So, the pull up is anywhere between 3 to 5, 6%. So nothing super significant there. I think we're just having kind of a bounce back day for alts. Beats taking a beat down, but it's also one of those very volatile tokens recently, right? So it's either 25% up or 30% down, and today's a down day for Beats. It's down 37%. Pippin, which has been on a run, pretty significant pullback, right? We've seen this thing get all the way to like almost 500 million, sitting at 359. So is this kind of a whale play that they just kind of got together and decided to push this thing up? Now they're taking profit. Whether they did decide to do that or not, it is impressive that it got to about $400 to $500 million market cap, right? So sitting at 359, not too worried about Pippin. If I was in this position, I would probably be worrying about it if we're starting to see an aggressive sell-off and this head below 300 million, right? Maybe in the 200s or something like that. That would concern me a bit. And so we are seeing that pull back about 15% there. What else is here? BMX is up 12.3%. Chills, I haven't really talked about Chills in forever, up 22.1%. We got Merlin Chain back in the green, up 2% here, sitting at 38 cents. Zora pulling back. This is interesting, pulling back about 9% for Zora. Pretty small market cap, man, for Zora. 181 million. That's pretty small, don't you think?
Yeah, well, we'll see. I think it has a lot of growing up to do. It's not really a platform that has grown a lot since its creation, right? It has gotten better, but I think it still has a lot of room to grow. So I think it's fair. Honestly, I think it's fair.
Gotcha. Yeah, they got a lot of support, obviously, and some big plans, but so did Farcaster, right? And we saw how that happened.
And that's kind of the reason why I said that too, right? Farcaster raised
that popped in your mind.
Yeah, when you said that, it's like, Farcaster, it was, the Twitter for Base, and now it's another wallet competitor against Base. So Zora right now, they're trying to compete against, YouTube and some of the bigger ones. We'll see where they are in a couple of years.
Absolutely. And then you got Fartcoin pulling up 1.6%. And it's always a good thing when Fartcoin is green, right? So sitting at 282 million. But just the pullback that it had was crazy from this year. But we are seeing a little bit of strength come back into it here and there. But one thing about Fartcoin is it does set the sentiment for the trenches a bit, right? So to see it green, I think is a good thing. But that is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the alts for you guys. Hopefully that helps out heading into the weekend.
Yep. A few comments here. We got the great myself. He says, I feel like de-risk time was end of last year. Earlier this year, I believe it's buy. So when we're talking about that, we're talking about the ones who backstop their liquidity. They made billions of dollars, right? They made so much money, and they're de-risking in the sense of not trying to like dump it all at once and just destroy the market. So they made, like I said, billions and billions of dollars on some of these altcoins that they kind of have to sell into the market there. Then we got Thunder hit me in the I guess Albert, right? He says there are two different kinds of people in this world. Person one who's excited for the bear market, the person who is afraid of going into the bear market. What about the person who's just tired of the effing bear market? I mean, I think that's me.
I think that would that fall into number 2?
I mean, I honestly feel like we've been in a bear market since May of 2024.
Yeah.
I really feel that way.
I do think that there needs to be a third, because it's not that like some people are afraid of going into the bear market. It's more of like exhausted of it.
Yeah, 100%. Just like, like if we went into a bear market, right, and like, maybe the 4-year cycle is still on, and October of 2026 is the bottom of the bear market, and it's a normal 4-year cycle, which is definitely a possibility. The crypto's dead. Like the crypto as we know it, if we go 10 months without any liquidity entering our markets and down and sideways, crypto as we know it is dead. Like there is, when bull market comes back, it's not going to be anything that's not on the stock market, right? Like there's these builders, they can't get funding. Most of them will be out of business, us included. If we go 10 months bear market, we're possibly done. Like there's no, you know what I mean? With no news, we couldn't do this for 10 months in the area that we're in. Right. So,
yeah, I mean, the 10 months of no news, of course, that would be horrible. But
yeah,
that's not what majority of people are feeling. I feel like that has a pretty good feel of which, by the way,
all year.
Yeah. But I was about to say that, like, a pretty good feel. I don't know who has a pretty good feel at this point, but I'm still going to bet on people that got some things right in the past, right? So like the Benjamin Cohens,
he's been right the entire time.
The Tom Lees, I did. So yes, he has been right. Benjamin Cohen has been right a lot this year. I do think that I do think he expected dominance to go up and sustain longer than it did, though. Because like him getting the October 10th like dominance for that spike, though, come on, bro, that was lucky. That was lucky. Happened.
I mean,
it was lucky.
60%, dude. Like that's insane.
Yeah, but he was
Bitcoin is 60% of the market. He was calling for 67. Like, all right, he's a few percentage points.
That's a lot.
And we did hit it though. We did hit it in Q3.
But I'm not gonna give him a day. I'm not going to give him one day. You got to have at least like a week of that, or like an average over a week.
He's still calling for Bitcoin dominance to go up into next year. So he can still be right? So
anyway,
shout out to Jim 1000 over on Pump. He says, gotta admit, you guys are good what you do. Only found you because of the coin. Glad I did. Appreciate you, Jim.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, that was awesome. Over on Pump,
good.
Pump Fun.
In this bear market.
Feels good we can find people in the bear market, right? So, Shizzy, where's the other hat? Yeah, that hat's off, bro. Until Bitcoin stops being an a-hole, dominance drops, the hat's off. But you're the first person to notice it.
This is his challenge. Bitcoin has to get back over 100K, and then he changes the hat back.
No, dominance has to drop to 50. And the hat, I'll put the Bitcoin hat back on.
I need to do what Tom's doing with the weight thing, man. Just for me, not for
you. Can go 15 days without eating.
I mean, if I have electrolytes and I'm just in a coma,
dude.
I'm just kidding.
I did 72 hours and it was rough. So
it's pretty recent. The beginning is the hardest part, though. You know, the beginning, the first couple of days, yeah, because like your stomach just starts like grumbling. And it hurts, and then you just like you see a commercial, and you're like,
there was really no pain for day 3. It's all mindset.
No, day 2, day 1, day 1.
Day 1 sucks. Yeah, day 1 sucks, but still no pain. It's just you kind of like you're hungry. You're hungry, but you like the only reason I was able to get through those 72 hours was playing video games because the time just flies by. and you don't think about anything. But yeah, for sure. You sent Jake the link for today?
I did. He
Alright,
should be
cool.
good to go. So
Yeah, so let's just jump into some stuff here. I'm gonna show you guys the DXY from today. So I'm on the hourly, and if you guys watch the show, you would know that I am not bullish on markets until the DXY drops below 96. And I got that number. Let me go to the weekly. The weekly is probably a better way to kind of see this. I got that number from every single time Bitcoin has dropped below 96. We've seen eventually an alt season, right? So if you want to spread this out here, this is from June of 2015. This is kind of when I say it. So in 2015, 2016, you saw the sideways, and then once Bitcoin, I'm sorry, the DXY or the dollar index dropped below this 96 right here. We saw a fake out, so there is fake outs. We have to be very aware of that. But once we saw it and come back up and get rejected, this is when alt season started. This is October 2017, January 2018 is when you saw the real alt season. This candle right here was alt season. This is when everything went nuts, right? Ethereum went to 1,400, Bitcoin went to 19,000. That was this candle here. And we saw, down here for a little while, and then pretty much this is the bear market. It's up
is
all
that
here.
the active chart though,
the
like
bear market.
the live one?
Yeah,
because I wonder what price it is right now. You said 99, right?
98.6.
Okay, yeah.
And then you seen, then we had this bear market, like I said, and then in 2020 and around June is kind of when you saw the money printer go nuts, and this is when you see the next alt season. This lasted from technically June of 2020, and it kind of went all the way till November 2021. I mean, look how perfect this is with the start. This is when you had DeFi summer. The official July was DeFi summer, and then if you look here. This is November 2021. Once it got back over, it was over. It was done. So now we kind of fast forward to here. We need the DXY to drop below this 96, drop below that, and continue down all the way to about 90. Same thing we saw here. Same thing we saw here. And then this could be the top of alt season. And then this could be the beginning of the bear market as we head back up and cross this 96 again. And then let's say potentially we have a left translated cycle where it doesn't last long, it drops below, and then we have our next cycle here because this one is a right translated cycle. I'm potentially thinking a left translated cycle, which could be potentially an alt season that lasts 2 years going into the halving in 2028. And then after the halving in 2028, we could see potentially a bear market that goes into 2032.
Yeah, I feel like you just went far into the future, but it sounds like it could play out that way, right? One thing that we need for sure to happen is for that to crash down. And I'm curious what your thoughts are for, like, do you think the person that has the 4-year cycle mentality, 2021 was like the best bull run year, or do you think they were thrown off because of the second hump or second peak?
Well, they were kind of expecting it sooner. So when I look, I watch back, so BitBoy in January 2020, he was telling all of his people, hey, the bull market starts now. It starts now. And then he was hit in the face by the Black Swan event and COVID. They were actually expecting early 2020.
But that was a halving year.
Yeah, they were expecting early, but there was no prior, like, you know what I mean? Like,
usually happens post halving year.
No, well, that was just 2017. You remember that they didn't have the data that we have today. So in the post halving year didn't really exist in 2013, 2014 because 2013 was technically the post halving year, but they had Mt. Gox, right? So
yeah, but I do remember
the bull market happened actually in 2012. Mt. Gox was like February of 2013, and then that kind of imploded the whole year.
So
they didn't have the data.
Yeah, in 2013 is whenever like people in my office were talking about Bitcoin, right? And they were like, this is like a different approach to doing finance. It's like digital coins and et cetera, right? So, but I do remember that being in the beginning of the year of 2013.
Yeah.
Because I met my wife not long after that. That's how I remember. And I had bought Bitcoin when it was maybe coming back down from hitting 1,000. So like at the price that I got it, I think it was like $800 or something. I didn't buy a full one anyways, but I think you might be right about that. It was like a short-lived end of 2012, early 2013, and then like you said, Mt. Gox happened and then destroyed the year.
So in 2020, they were kind of expecting a repeat of that first one, right? That 2014, 2013 type of cycle, right? Because you remember the halving was 2020, 2016, and then 2012, right? So they didn't have the extended halving year of 2012. They had it though in 2017, but again, they were all expecting 2017 for it to come earlier, and it came later, right? Because that was January of 2017. So that was the first time where it was the next year, right? So it kind of faked out a lot of people who were there prior cycle.
But
And then
that's
in 2020, they were
Mhm.
all expecting it to be a repeat of 2012 and actually happened because now Bitcoin had this feel to it. It was $3,000. You know what I mean? Like they were kind of expecting ETF in 2020. They were. And so even BitBoy, he was exhausted by October of 2020. He really was. I remember watching his streams. And he really didn't start getting momentum until January 2021. And so that 2020 year was a lot rough for the people that were there from 2017.
Yeah. Yeah. And, people always are trying to anticipate it earlier than it actually happens because they're excited. They're getting closer to it. Right. But for me, I've always been having that Q4 stuck in my head because of the 2017 bull run that I experienced. And it was Q4 for a fact for me, getting into Litecoin in December and seeing it ride up and then seeing Bitcoin get to like that 20,000. But another thing too was that alts extended though, right? They extended into like January, February of 2018 because that's whenever Ethereum kind of hit its peak, right?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting because like I took that historical kind of event and experienced like a very early version of that in 2021 because like it ended in November, but we also got something in April, right? So we got two peaks that happened. So 2021 is definitely a unique experience, and shit, this year's a unique experience. So.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like if I think you got to throw past data out the window and just kind of it just doesn't work that way. But
Yeah.
let's get into our next segment here. Every Friday, we're lucky enough to have the great guys over at Emblem Vault, Agent Hustle, Migrate Fun. It feels like these guys are one of the few builders left in the space, honestly. They're killing it right now. Migrate Fun is the talk of the entire X. You're seeing a lot of people come out of the woodwork and say, oh, wow, this migration stuff is really cool. And then they got huge updates for Agent Hustle. So I can't wait to dig into that with Jake today. We got Jake Gallen. So let's bring him up. Jake, welcome back to OnChain Revolution.
What's up, guys? It's been a while since I've been here. What, maybe 3 weeks or a month or so?
Was it? Oh, yeah, because we had Adam and then Chris before that, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome back, man. I haven't seen you in forever.
Yeah, appreciate it. First, you got to tell me what's up with this on-chain rev token and Pyro and Pump. Was this a new venture?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks to you, setting us up with Pyro and Migrate Fun is starting to, I think, help some of these projects really get found out too, right? Because it's a marketing event in a sense too. And Pyro was in this cohort, right? Coming from the Believe app and moving over to Pump. And, us having that meeting with you, you explained it to us, it made sense, right? So shout out to the Pyro team. We met with them. Awesome team, by the way, super professional. And their business model is awesome. Right. So it's built for streamers. And so if anybody's a streamer out there, reach out to the Pyro team if you're doing it consistently, of course. They basically, find good partners and sponsors and stuff to have this mechanism of burning your token. So we had to have a strong token. And so we launched one 2 days ago. And it's been awesome ever since, right? So we're really trying to build that support too from the community on Pump and Zora. And look, at the end of the day, we're a show. We love to do this. We want to continually do this, and it helps us do that. So we're super ecstatic about it.
I have a question for Jake real quick. Jake, what is the obsession with pay DEX? Is everyone an affiliate of DEX Screener? Like, why does everyone want us to pay DEX? It is ridiculous. I feel like how do we get this free marketing that DEX Screener gets? Like, that's absolutely crazy.
It's the best business model ever. I think the platform made like $80 million last year just off people paying for the DEX Screener. I think it's because it's like so affiliated with if it's not paid for, it's an official scam rug from like the early meme coin days that people just have trauma from it. And I mean, where the market's going, DEX Screener probably is not going to be relevant in a few years from now unless they change their business model, because you have things like Pump Fun and all these analytic tools and stuff that are going to start embedding it into their own platform. But until then, I guess you just kind of got to play the game, and they're just going to keep making 2 SOL per token in ad infinitum.
Yeah,
It's so
I'm sure
annoying,
that.
dude. It's
Yeah.
one of the most annoying things I've ever heard. Pay Dex, pay Dex, pay Dex. And it's like, I don't want to pay Dex. Like, screw
Yeah.
Dex Screener. Like, I don't like them. Like, I don't know.
I
You could
almost feel
use
like
it for those sweet pump fund fees, right? The sweet creator fees.
I feel like Elon owns Deck Screener, maybe, and then like he developed Pump Fund, and it's like the perfect like coexisting, dual business model. No, but Dex Tools, in my opinion, dropped the ball with that. Like, you know what I mean?
God.
Like they were the leader back then, but yeah, yeah. So super super excited to be working with Pyro. I'm curious, are you guys finding a lot of these type of projects that you're like, wow, I mean, a lot of substance here, a lot of potential. They actually already generating revenue. Is that happening a lot in these cohorts?
This most recent one that's still ongoing has been it's shown us a lot of kind of where the market is going or where the industry is headed. The first migration group was all to Radium and Bonk Fun. And even the second group with Pay AI was the same. And so over the last 3 months, we got a really close relationship with the Bongfun team, the Radium team, and all of the people migrating over. And in that cohort, right, you kind of had a mix of meme coins and different types of utility projects, privacy, AI, right, kind of like quite diverse. And then with this recent group, it's all ICM projects, some from Believe, most from Believe, but some are from different ecosystems. There's a few meme coins who are upgrading. So it's a different kind of experience. And it has shown us, engaging with the Pump team directly, as well as the community, that Pump Fun is focused on moving past just speculative meme coin mania, although that'll still exist. Meme coins will probably change, as I've talked about for the entire year. But the industry is moving towards utility focused projects, revenue generation, but then also the CCM markets, the creator markets, right? With like you guys and with the token associated with the stream. It's all going to kind of blend together over the next year or two. And the teams, it's a lot more my style in terms of trading, right? I've just always been like a infrastructure coin, like utility project type investor, but now engaging with the teams and seeing all these different avenues, it's really exciting. It makes me a little bit more thrilled of the future of where the industry is headed. Although if it does move in that direction, then a lot of the crypto natives kind of lose their edge, right? Because then the different types of investing and style starts to change and become a little bit more fundamental based, which has not been the case for crypto. But it's been a great experience this last migration group to Pump Fun. And we still have like, I think 12 teams. I think 8 teams have migrated out of 21 so far. We have a lot more teams reaching out. We just announced a January 6th migration group. We're adding support for Meteora and USD1 migrations as well. It seems like a lot of people are interested in both of those. So we'll have pretty much the full suite, and we'll be migrating teams to all different ecosystems in January, as well as maybe a few exciting announcements, hopefully.
Nice. You were talking about something about like kind of maybe like a different type of market and stuff. And yesterday or the day before, Shizzy on our live stream, he asked me, he's like, did we trade retail out for institutions? And so my mind kind of goes to, they're starting to build this like new game of rules to where we do go away from memes and more of their traditional approach, revenue, value creation, that type of thing. Have you had a chance to kind of take your CEO hat off every once in a while and say, okay, this is where the market is going, using your trader mindset, or not your trader mindset necessarily because you don't trade as much, but your experience in Web3 native mindset? Do you feel like they're changing the rules on us and we just got to learn? Or what do you think?
Yeah, I actually put this post out yesterday. From 2014 to 2017, we were kind of in the ICO mania, and yeah, the ICO boom. And this was more just like, oh, we could bring capital on chain. There's, fundraising capabilities, right? The first ICO was in 2013 with Mastercoin. And then obviously we got the crazy boom in 2017. And then after ICO boom, we got the DeFi kind of era, right? We're trying out different types of liquidity pools and staking and all of the swaps and all these different mechanisms. And then in 2022, we got the attention boom. So NFTs, DAOs, meme coins, live streaming, and all of these things bring into the fold. And I think next we're starting to enter the ground floor, or we are in the ground floor of the next era, which I think is probably some sort of like either institutional based, or you could say maybe even the traditional boom, where it becomes a lot more similar to what the stock market looks like, or at least how it trades, if we're talking just trading perspective. I think from like an infrastructure perspective, I mean, we're betting the whole company on it, but interoperability and intelligence is going to be kind of this big breakout candidate. Although I think more interoperability than intelligence, because interoperability has been around since 2017, I think was the first, or 2018 with the first swap. So it's due to kind of be the main, or the front character, or the main character of this next 3 years or so, 2 to 3 years. And AI really just started in crypto. I guess you had like AI art in 2019, but then last year was more taking the agent perspective and applying it to crypto. So, right after there, you're going to get the intelligence era. But once you're in that era, then it's pretty obvious that, you're kind of in the middle of the upswing. Like, and so we're on the ground floor. And so from a trader's perspective, I think you're going to start looking at utility coins and trying to figure out what the valuation metric is, whether it's revenue or buybacks or burns, or what type of crossover. And now you have also the crossover with the culture. So that's what we're doing right here. CCM, there's a token attached to the stream, and you guys are adding a different flavor to how the tokenomics work within the stream. And so it's all going to blend together. And from just a trader perspective, maybe the like 100x gains, they'll still exist, but they're just going to come in a different form. And maybe it's just not, and it's not the meme coin casino. It's going to be something different. And Pump is obviously trying to position themselves in that way, or else they would not incentivize creators under $1 million to stay on the platform, right? Because that's the hardest part, is getting past that first $1 million of a token. And what are the highest fees, creator fees on Pump Fund, is under $1 million. So that's heavily skewed to keeping builders and creators on the Pump Fund platform. Whereas before it was all traders. And so the traders are starting to move into other areas, whether it's prediction markets and such. And we see that with Agent Hustle as well. A lot of our community's been asking for prediction markets and cross-chain capabilities so that they can explore their ecosystems, because the speculative mania of meme coins and Pump Fund and some of these other launch pads is changing. And I think everyone's quite aware of it. And that's why you see the sentiment so low in the industry, is the edge of the crypto natives is going to start wear off. And maybe even the next era is really just the application era of all types. And that's probably, I guess, the best way to define it would be the next era entering into the application era.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And like, I really didn't put this mindset on until recently, but like, it's kind of like when I hear people say like, oh, I listened to Post Malone before White Iverson, like back when he was like, before he made a hit. If you were able to buy his token back then, and then White Iverson happens, and then he's this global superstar now, you potentially could make millions of dollars off that. Right. So we're entering an era where you can find like shows like Tom Crown, for instance. And, there's 4 people watching when I first started thing. If I would have been able to buy his token then, I'd be up, significant amount on that token, because his global, the way he's been keeping him a great trader, and a lot of people watching with like blockchain backer and stuff like that. So we're getting to a economy where you can potentially bet on anything. Welcome Poly Market, right? You can bet on anything. And why not bet on, hey, I really like this stream, or I like this artist, I'm going to buy their token.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think you actually see this in just the public media and mainstream about, is our prediction markets gambling? Are they not gambling? It's probably gambling, to be honest. But at the end of the day, everything is gambling. I mean, gambling is one of the oldest forms of speculation throughout human history, and it's always evolved. And maybe just because I born and raised in Las Vegas and worked on the strip for 10 years and in the nightlife industry and stuff, that it's kind of just ingrained and entrenched into just me as a person, and just understanding that speculation and incentives are all around the world. And now that's being moved to the internet, where everyone kind of saw this as like this domain, that was pristine and maybe, anons and stuff, and could be on the internet and joke around, but now it's being financialized and commercialized through speculative media or mediums like tokenization. And a lot of people are very upset about it. But at the end of the day, what I've learned with the internet is, once it's decided it wants to do something, there's no changing. Like, it is full steam ahead, and the internet dictates what happens in the real world now. I think the Trump winning the presidency the second time around was just a pretty good showcase of that, right? He won through podcasts and different types of the internet media outlets, versus Kamala, who kind of lost because they stuck with the traditional outlets. And so for us, and for me, and just how I see it, is there's no stopping this train at this point. So you might as well find, where your avenue is, and continue to build. And if you think it's bad for society, then, you're just going to miss out on what the next form is. And, maybe speculation is not just as repulsive as a lot of people like to say. And it's just going to be the new forms of generating revenue, right? Because AI is going to come in and take jobs, quote unquote. And so people are going to have to find ways to make other forms of revenue. And you have all these different types of markets that you could bet on, or add speculation, or even incentives. If you say that tokens are an incentive model versus a gambling model, right? Then that's kind of the difference of saying, is a prediction market trading or is it gambling? It's all one of the same. It just depends on what your perspective is.
Yeah. And, kind of what Shizzy talked about, like the possibility of betting on these figures or business owners or superstars that eventually become superstars. We've already done that, with collectibles. We just wrapped it in a pretty bow. You know what I mean? Like with sports cards, like some of these rookies that come in, you're betting big time on some of these rookies because they could break their leg and tear their ACL and just not have a career, but you put in a lot because they started off so hot, right? So, but that industry really put a pretty bow on it because it's a hobby, and the way that they did it, it's like, we've been doing this. Now, people did have to reach a certain level of success, coming out of college sports or whatever you're betting on, right? Now what you're doing is, instead of doing that, you're just taking potential at an earlier stage for different industries as well. So I think this is something that's already embedded in our nature of how we already act. We're just not putting a pretty bow on it anymore, and it's just kind of be straightforward now.
Yeah, it's exciting for us. I see the future kind of pretty clearly. Could change, right? I mean, this is why we make bets and build companies. And for crypto specifically, the market's maturing. A lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of crypto natives either got wiped out or they were early and cashed out and have kind of left. So it brings all of us here who are essentially building, the new foundation for what the next era of crypto is going to be. And I don't know, to me, it makes me very excited. I think crypto's never been in a better position, and institutions, quote unquote, are coming, but they're going to try to put their own spin on it. But at the end of the day, the crypto culture, I think, will still stay intact. And a lot of the ideals, like, right, meme coin's not going to go away. The way that memetics and social value is applied to these different blockchains is always going to stay intact. And I've learned this a lot from building with Emblem for the last 3 years, right? The culture on Bitcoin is quite diverse, especially when you get into like runes and ordinals and BRC20. The culture on ETH, has its own kind of decentralized ethos, as well as all the L2s all have some sort of variation, but they inherit some of the properties of the ETH culture. And then Solana, right? Solana is generally dominated by Gen Z and the younger generation. So they're going to, embed that culture's values. And it's a very fast-paced chain and community that focuses on applications, just some similar to like what Silicon Valley does. And if you want to participate in this market, there's plenty full of options on where to go. I think maybe some people are becoming frustrated because they don't see it or they don't want to accept that. But it just is society in the real world. Society changes, cities change. There's in America where we live, right? There's cities on the decline, right? Like San Francisco and California, although they were in an uptrend for almost 2 centuries. And then you have cities that are on the uptrend, right? Like Las Vegas and Miami and places in Texas that are on the upswing, right? And so it's the same thing like this in the digital world. I think as a crypto native, and if you're gonna trade, it's important to find where you fit best, and then just really take a directional bet and go from there, and then pretty much dismiss everything else, because crypto is large enough now to where you can focus on one ecosystem and not have to worry about anything else.
Yeah, that's tough though, right? Like, especially when you because we go into these ecosystems and we kind of like, so for us, for Bitcoin, right? I'm always paying attention still, even though we don't cover it as much as we used to. I'm always paying attention. And then something like last year happened where, out of nowhere, $1 billion cat shoots up, and I'm in a different ecosystem now. And I'm like, oh man, why did I, but speaking of Bitcoin, you guys, Adam McBride posted the screenshot, and Bitcoin is now in the Hustle wallet. Well, I guess in the next update. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're gonna be pushing Agent Hustle V4 most likely next week. Lots of upgrades. Yeah, we want to do it before the end of the year. It's kind of interesting how the year ends, because Christmas is on a Thursday, New Year's Eve is on a Thursday. But yeah, we added Bitcoin, Ethereum and Solana and Polygon for Polymarket. And it took us a while to figure out Bitcoin, because we use Lit protocol on the back end for TEE, and we use Emblem Vault as well. And so you have to integrate it in a non-custodial and decentralized way, while using kind of a lot of this technology. But we finally got it to work. So you can deposit Bitcoin. You see in there also Coinbase. So you can buy Bitcoin with US dollars, and then it deposits Bitcoin right into your wallet. We actually right now are working on integrating read-only support for runes, ordinals, and BRC20. So you can deposit those and you could see it in the wallet. Eventually, you will be able to trade the Bitcoin assets with Agent Hustle, as well as we need to add support for Counterparty, because it's Bitcoin legacy wallet. And then, we're kind of working on merging Emblem and Hustle into one. Like that, we're going after the super app. We think that the next main character of crypto is interoperability. Emblem has the chance to be the biggest interoperability protocol in the entire industry, right? The top two are Wormhole and Layer Zero right now. We believe that we have a massive advantage over them, because we can support NFTs, fungible tokens, AI infrastructure, as well as support any single blockchain that works, because we're not a cross-chain messaging protocol like they are. We're a cross-chain vaulting protocol. So we can support any network and pretty close to unlimited capabilities. And so merging all of this into one app and merging both of them together is a goal for Q1. And then retire Emblem Vision, retire Emblem Markets, and basically we'll have two apps. We'll have the Emblem app, and we'll have Migrate Fun, living kind of codependent or independent, depending on how the market plays out next year.
Yeah.
Love that.
I was just going to say, I've talked about Agent Hustle being the one-stop shop, and Bratoshi as well. Community member says Agent Hustle is becoming the one-stop shop for everything in crypto. Holy bullish. So I think of terminals when I think of like convenience, right? Because they trade really fast. A platform like GMGN, you can trade Solana trenches, you can trade BSC trenches, and they added Monad when Monad launched, right? They had a way head start over something like Agent Hustle. And I'm looking at this, and this is like mind-boggling to me that you guys have integrated all these chains already, right? So, and then kind of going off of the Bitcoin thing, did you guys feel like you had to do Bitcoin because of your history in the Bitcoin ecosystem? Or do you feel like Bitcoin just has to be there because at any moment, the Bitcoin ecosystem can kind of rip off like it did in 2023? Like, what's your perspective of adding Bitcoin specifically?
I mean, if you're going to be a long-term builder, and if we're moving into an application era, you have to target the non-crypto natives. And what's the most popular coin to non-crypto natives? Bitcoin. Everyone in the world knows what Bitcoin is. majority of people have no idea what Solana is or no idea what Ethereum is. If we're going to build this everything app for normies, you have to have Bitcoin integrated in there, right? That's the thing that they all know, and they want to be able to store it, and they want to be able to trade it with an LLM because everyone is familiar with what AI is, and there's over 1 billion subscriptions for LLMs across the world. So what are the two biggest intersections that are upcoming in the internet? Crypto, which is Bitcoin, and AI, right, which are LLMs. So you got to have both of those there. It's also the biggest by market cap, multiple trillions of dollars. And then on top of that, right, our history with Bitcoin. Emblem started on Bitcoin in 2016 on Counterparty and then moved to Ethereum in 2020. We are the biggest NFT bridge by far in the industry, and 80-90% of that TVL are Bitcoin assets, most of them being Counterparty as well. And so we want to create a frictionless experience. So, I'll kind of present an example here. When we merge it all into one, you'll have this Bitcoin wallet where you can deposit Counterparty ordinals, runes BRC20. Let's say you want to vault your rare Pepes. Essentially, all you would do is you would just send your rare Pepes to the Counterparty wallet, and then you would just say, hustle, vault these for me. And then you're done.
Wow.
And so that's kind of what we want it to be. That's our goal, as well as, with other Bitcoin native assets, like we'll say runes, for example. We have a conditional trading engine that we've built in-house that now works on both SVM and EVM. We feel pretty confident that we can also apply this to the UTXO ecosystem. So you build things like limit orders and DCA and stop losses and take profits with runes and BRC20. And you're essentially bringing smart contract functionality to a UTXO ecosystem through an AI interface. And for the majority of the users that we will be targeting, they don't have to know that runes are on Bitcoin or that it's a UTXO or how it works. They just want to trade it, right? Most people who are coming into crypto are profit driven, which is okay, but you have to meet them where they are. The crypto, we have, cypherpunk ideals because we've been in the industry. Most people on the team have been in the industry 10 years or longer, Shannon, going back to 2012. So we know what we need to do to keep those ideals, but most people who are in the industry just want to make money, and that's okay. And so we want to support everything. At the end of the day, what Emblem and Hustle are going to merge into is essentially just like a wallet, right? We're a wallet app at the end of the day, building DeFi functionality and AI functionality on top of it. And we have a lot of big plans for Q1 and Q2 next year, as well as with the token itself. And in the next few weeks, we should have our SDK live that our founder's been working on for a few months, which will allow anyone to build with their own Agent Hustle version. Pretty much any piece of what you see on Agent Hustle now or in this upgrade, you'll be able to support in your app fully in its entirety, or rip any specific piece out of it and then integrate it into your application.
That would be crazy if Agent Hustle was the tool that brought mainstream adoption to like runes or BRC20s. Just because like at that point you're like, there could be liquidity pools and you're just making it easy for them. It's just all marketing at that point.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, right, there's a lot of companies that are building towards a super app. If you look at Coinbase's presentation from earlier this week or last week, when they're doing equity perps, right, and they're doing this and they're doing this business, they're doing that. Their whole ethos has been Coinbase is the on-ramp to the on-chain economy, and their on-chain economy is Base, right? And they've spent probably hundreds of billions of dollars on this idea. It's the same exact thing that a lot of these centralized exchanges are doing. Binance has BNB, Kraken has Inc., and there's a handful of other centralized exchanges that also have their own chains, because they know that the on-chain economy volume is going to trounce the off-chain economy volume at some point, or at least the centralized exchange volume. So they have to have their imprint to their own chain and what their version of the on-chain economy is. What Agent Hustle does is it allows anyone to have access to all on-chain economies through an LLM interface. And because we have Emblem Vault and we can support any chain and we could do it very quickly, I think we have a the biggest advantage over anyone else, because if you look at a lot of the other AI terminals, they're all built on top of Privy. So their their guidance is driven by what Privy adopts, which is now controlled by Stripe. We vertically own the wallet infrastructure. We vertically own the authorization infrastructure, right? The sign-in kind of infrastructure, as well as we then partner with the different protocols to integrate into ours. And at some point, you build this super app where anyone could come in and interact with any chain. And if you can get, our goal is to get 1,000 daily active users at some point. That's when we can start doing some really cool tokenomics and stuff that we have planned. But until then, right, it's just getting there. If you add ordinals, right, you pick up 30 people. You add counterparty, you pick up 50 people. You add, this community, you pick it up. And then eventually it starts to build where people are just using it because it's so simple. And once that simplicity happens, simply just having runes and ordinals in there where you have, a few thousand daily active users will bring volume to it. But most of the people who are going to be trading and who are coming to the platform are not going to look to see what the technology of runes is. They're just going to be like, oh, fungible tokens on Bitcoin, hustle trade it for me. They don't care how it's built or how the sniping works or mem pools or anything like that. And so that's a future that we're planning for. And it's why the merger of Hustle and Emblem is so important, because the branding is really important. A bunch of the community has really shown that having 3 different apps we tried it. It's a little confusing to people. So you bring those 2 in line, and then Migrate Fun is its own separate thing. And I think it makes it a lot more digestible. And also too, from a kind of last point is from a, I guess you'd say a value standpoint, Hustle is the IP and an agent. We've found that actually one of the best decisions we could have done is humanize the agent, because people find comfort in being able to talk to someone who's very human-like, right? So that kind of idea has built a lot of rapport. And we see a lot of our users, like Bratos, who's listening, has been using Hustle since it launched last year, or I guess on New Year's Eve last year, because it's a human and you build this rapport, and because they have a memory, you don't want to leave that. That's very sticky, right? But from an enterprise value standpoint, the brand of Emblem is much larger than Hustle, as well as for, commercialization. Do businesses want to, brand and partner with a personified agent, or do they want to partner with an enterprise, right? And Emblem has that enterprise level name and brand. And so, we identify both of them, and it's starting to come to a point where the merger is coming pretty soon.
Yeah, and in a merger, obviously, with Emblem Vault, like I even get confused with the call you guys sometimes. Like Emblem Vault, Migrate Fun, Agent Hustle. Will there be like above name above that?
It'll just be Emblem.
It'll just be Emblem. Okay, gotcha.
Hustle will be the IP. Hustle will be the, and this could change, but the thought is you keep Hustle as the agent, right? You want to keep the agent personified. That just brings so much comfort to people knowing that. And then with the Agent Hustle SDK, that's like the agent component. But Emblem is the wallet and cross-chain infrastructure. So that is always going to be the parent company. It'll probably end up becoming Emblem app to some capacity, with Agent Hustle being hosted as the in-house native agent. And if people who use the Agent Hustle SDK, they can go import Hustle into their own app, right? But basically what we're building an all-in-one is an Emblem Vault. It's an all-in-one vault that does everything, right? And that's essentially what the company is at the end of the day. It's a vaulting technology. It's probably the biggest vaulting technology. It could do tokenized vaults like it does with Rare Pepe, or untokenized vaults like it does with Agent Hustle. And so we want to showcase that because we've realized people landing on Hustle are probably going to stay there over the long term. And you just blend all of our Emblem products into the background, and it can do everything else. And we either build all of the other things we need in-house, or we just partner. And we have no problem integrating other agents, swaps, right? We have relationships with Uniswap we integrated. We have a relationship with OpenSea we integrated for NFTs, which will be coming in the next update. We partnered with ChangeNow to do cross-chain swaps. No problem partnering with people. Honestly, preferable because it's much faster, as well as we're a smaller team who doesn't have the opportunity to build a lot of the in-house stuff. So it's an exciting time. And I would just say to look forward to a lot of things here over the next 6 months.
Yeah, and especially, looking forward to, when Adam posted this, yeah, everyone saw Bitcoin here. I saw Polygon, right? And when Polygon is obviously Poly Markets, right? It's number one, Courtyard maybe two, but I think Poly Market is the first thing I really realized. And today we had news from DraftKings. DraftKings Predictions is here. Download the app, start trading on sports finance, available now, but they're not using blockchain. They're actually using CFTC with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange doing the third party. It's all crap, right? Blockchain's the way to go. But you guys are going to be putting Polygon here and Poly Markets, and that seems like it's going to be exciting.
Of all of the products that we have, using Hustle with Poly Market feels the most futuristic to me. It feels the most normie friendly as well. Just being able to place prediction market bets with an AI companion who also can do things like, hey, if I take $1,000 from my bank account, I can buy Bitcoin and then swap it to USD to make a bet on a Poly Market bet, and he could do that all in a single prompt. Like, to me, that seems like the fastest path to adoption, because most people don't want to have to do anything. They just want the agent to do it. And Adam was even saying when he was betting, when he was making a bet on Poly Market or the prediction market during testing, Hustle took the Solana and swapped it to USD CE on Poly Market. But Hustle also said, you're going to need Pol for gas. Would you also like me to swap some to Pol and do that? Right. So
wow,
that is already, a big UX improvement, because how many times have you gone to bridge something and then you forgot the native gas, or you sent over an ERC20 and you didn't have the native gas of that chain, and you're just like, dude, screw this. Like, it's too annoying to deal with. So he's even making those suggestions to do that kind of stuff. And then we integrate all of the kind of off-chain stuff. And his predictions have been pretty good so far, but it's cool to sit there and watch football and then just make a quick bet by telling him to do it based off of the football game or whatever that you're kind of watching, or even sitting there and watching Trump talk, right? And for the mention market. And you can, in real time, just tell the agent to make adjustments to your bets there. Obviously, it's a little bit slower than clicking buttons, but what I've learned from most people in crypto, they're not the meme coin trader who sits there and has to click a button in half a second, or they get out sniped by bots. Most people want to take their time on bets, and so I think that's why it's a good happy medium.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a real fun time once, all the Poly Market stuff is integrated and ready for the public use, because, Poly Market right now, I think the biggest issue is like the shorter term bets, but like those medium range bets are really popular. For example, like the Epstein files right now. They're in the headlines right now. This guy, he's about to flip, I think, a $100,000 profit based on that. And so let me ask you this: would you recommend, not financial advice, but like using Hustle closer to like a date, because manipulation can happen more further out, or does that not matter as much, do you think?
I guess I would just come down to your prediction market strategy, to be completely honest. Like whenever I'm using Poly Market, I generally just kind of bet it and then I see it through. I'm not as much of like a high frequency trader where it's like, okay, I took this bet that has a 10% chance to win, and now that it's at a 30% chance to win, I'm going to hedge my bet by selling a portion of it to capture the upside, right? Like that's, up to kind of your strategy of what you want to do. But you could actually just ask Hustle what he thinks would be multiple different outcomes to that bet and see what he thinks, right? And so you could get some suggestions to it. And that's just the power of the agentic interface. It's as simple. Most people just want to be told what to do, right? If it's an agent that's telling them what to do, even if he's wrong, a lot of people still feel more comfortable in that than making a decision on their own and ultimately losing, right? Because it's like you're still improving. Because when you make a bet by yourself, and if you're a solo trader, you have to use your kind of inherent properties and values to figure out what went wrong. Whereas if you went wrong with an agent who helped you, then he'll tell you what went wrong, right? Or he'll give you suggestions on it. So you have kind of a buddy who can help with that.
Feedback.
Yeah, and because Agent Hustle is personified as a person, you build that rapport. So the more wrong bets that you're making with Hustle, the closer of a relationship you're going to build with them, which means that the user is sticky to the platform and most likely not going to leave, especially because the AI itself does not translate to other platforms. Like your relationship with Agent Hustle, even though it's using, Claude and ChatGPT and stuff on the back end, is not going to be the same experience on Banker or Hand On or Wayfinder or all of these other ones, right? That experience does not import and export, at least not yet. Maybe in the future that happens, but right now it's a siloed experience, and I think that is actually like a pretty big moat heading into the future. The goal is you just got to get people to using the platform. And so we're going to try to import all of our users over from Emblem. It's going to be a little bit difficult because they're a little bit more of the traditional type of crypto native, but I just suggest that if you are in crypto, to start experimenting with Hustle or even these other LM terminals, as we've been saying for the last year, because when that change does happen pretty quick, like it's happening right now, where we're moving into the next era of crypto past kind of the social aspect of it, the same thing's going to happen with intelligence, where all of a sudden you have, 100 million people or 50 million people using AI terminals to interact, whether it's the AI terminal on Coinbase or the AI terminal on Binance or Agent Hustle and Emblem. Like that's going to happen pretty quickly, and people who are not experienced with it are going to lose out. And you're essentially, it's going to be like, oh, how did the normies all take over? And it's like, oh no shit, they've been using LLMs for literally a decade at that point. Of course, that was the future. And so I'd say to just be diligent on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds awesome. It really does. I'm curious how that's going to work with the old school guys going to an interface. I mean, but that's life now, right? Everything is going AI. So you're going to have to get used to it one way or another. I'm going to jump over to what is happening with Migrate Fun, because we had this post last week and I actually was really interested and kind of watched it live. Well, I jumped on probably like 30 minutes after this happened, but the first pump fund migration is complete. What was it like? What was it like this? What was this last December 15th? What was it like during this process? Because this was the first one.
Yeah.
It took us about a month to build it out. And the way that we've been building Migrate Fun is you're kind of building the ship as people are requesting things. And at this point, I'm quite confident in our team in general, between the non-devs and devs. We have 5 people on the development team, very experienced. There's a lot of trust there. And there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to figure it out. The hardest component to it was figuring out the sniper prevention. Because we did do tests with the sniper protection on and without, and definitely there's snipers getting in without that protection. So, we built a new way for this. Pump Fun seems to be pretty exciting. I saw some people tweeting saying that migrations are going to bring life back to the trenches. And, if the trenches are evolving from meme coins to ICM and utility projects, then obviously Migrate Fun can be one of those types of products to help bring life back into this new medium. It's very exciting. The teams are really awesome to work with, right? A lot smaller teams. The biggest market cap is 5 million, I think, which was the Rainmaker team, which still has to complete. But you look at the migration turnouts, and the numbers are actually quite incredible across the board. One of the most recent migrations, I think, had 88%. So setting a second best if you go to claims and click on migrations and see. So so DCA is at 88, right, and 84. So 3 of the top 5 migration turnouts are pump fund migrations. It just shows how eager and excited those communities were to get over to pump. And we'll see within this next migration, you start seeing a Meteora migration tag as well. So we'll have all 4 of the major kind of ecosystems. I know there's other Solana ones as well, and truly just open up what is now, an environment to where builders, creators, CTOs, whatever, can move their liquidity to an ecosystem that best fits them. Right? All the ecosystems are varied, and the process is becoming a lot more simplified over time. The process to Bonk Fund is a little bit different to Radium. It's a little bit different to Pump Fund, right? Which is a little different to Meteora, and all the launch pads on Meteora that want us to support them as well. I'd say the hardest part has actually been remaining a neutral third party navigating between, all of the hyper competitive space of Solana. But I think it just shows the advantage that we have, which is our engineering skill set and cultural value that we bring, as well as kind of the knowledge. I find it hard to believe that any other team would be able to do this, just because of the cross-chain cultural experience that's brought, as well as just between the 9 people, there's probably 70 years of crypto experience between everyone, right? So just the ton of experience and knowledge of just how humans work and operate, as well as the on-chain mechanics, I think is brought us a good product. And, eventually we'll have to take this stuff cross-chain. And I think that's eventually when the can of worms really opens up. Because right now you have it kind of siloed to where AMMs and launchpads are competing against one another for top projects, right? Pump Fun is bringing users over from Bonk and Radium, and then Bonk is bringing people over from Pump, and vice versa, right? So it's kind of competitive there. Once you start moving over to places like Base and BNB and Inc. and stuff with all these exchanges, and they can now compete for top projects to migrate and using our tools, then I think that's when people are going to be like, oh shit, like this is like a very serious protocol. And I think it's going to be hard for anyone else to compete, although I do hope so. But again, we've built Emblem for 10 years and there's still no Emblem competitor. So I think it just shows the degree of difficulty.
I mean, I feel like you guys are going to have maybe you have like an SDK for this, maybe not, but
we do have an SDK. Migrate Fun SDK is coming out with the Agent Hustle SDK and the Emblem SDK. I think by New Year's Eve is the target.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the goal probably is getting in that as that like first market mover, that because there's a lot of tedious stuff that you don't talk about a part of this, but you guys are willing to go through it. And I think that's what stops a lot of these other projects from trying to build this product, right? But I'm looking at what you just said, and I get to see like a lot of that, every Friday when you jump on, or Chris or anybody does. And if I'm just like an outsider audience member watching this, I'm like, how do I get direct exposure to Migrate Fun? Is it just through the Hustle token? Is that the answer there?
As of now, the Hustle token is to get exposure. Maybe things change in the future. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see where the platform goes. But really, what I've learned in crypto is if you have a winning product, you want to kind of hold off on any sort of tokenomics and tokenization until, there's some sort of adoption or you feel comfortable. Because there's this situation where are you a product company or are you a token company? And unfortunately, I don't think you can be both. Once a token is introduced, then that's what most people will focus on. Right now, we're focused on building out the vision of Migrate Fun because we do think that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that we're creating, and it's going to take time to get there. We still do take portions of the Migrate Fun revenue and do buybacks. I think we've spent over 1,000 SOL on hustle buybacks since October. So there is a significant amount of buyback pressure that's continuing to be added, and we're going to continue that, right? It's kind of easy. Take the profits, put it back into hustle, merge hustle and Emblem into one, and then, we'll make an assessment then on how to do it. But we do want to overhaul the Agent Hustle subscription system. And, maybe that includes Migrate Fun. Maybe it doesn't. We'll kind of see where the market is at the time. But we do have like a 3, 6, and 9 month vision for these products. But ultimately, the market is what decides what direction we take.
Love it. Love it. It being December right now, right? Let's fast forward a year. Let's go to December 19th of next year. What makes you pop a bottle of champagne and say, we had an amazing year? What has to happen for you to really just, pop that bottle?
Yeah, I would say so. The Hustle and Emblem merger goes well. There's some other things within that we have plans for. So we'll kind of see. I would like to be over 100 migrations by then. I know that we'll end the year at 42, and then we have another 10 in January. But sometimes the numbers are a little bit more difficult. I'd like Migrate Fun to be on all of the major chains that have proliferation of locked liquidity pools. And Agent Hustle has I mean, realistically, if you could get 10,000 daily active users, that would be like, this is the #1 interoperability protocol in the industry. Realistically, our target is 1,000 daily active users, and then we'll kind of grow from there. But I think for 1,000 daily active users and the trading, the platform revenue and stuff, makes the company sustainable, right? We're still a 9-person team that has had $0 in venture capital raised in 9 years. There's no outside investors or anything, so we're completely operating off of a revenue, right? And that's not the case for 99% of the products in this industry. And so, we're still on our own island, and we still have to build our way out of this. So we do need to still seek sustainability. We're not still quite there yet. So we hope the merger of Emblem and Hustle helps with that, as well as the proliferation of migrations. And we do have like another NFT cross-chain app that we've been kind of teasing out for a year. So whenever the time is ready for that, we'll do that. We do see some speculation being reintroduced to NFTs through TokenWorks, which is the similar thesis that we had back in February when we started building that app, the cross-chain NFT app. And I think that's going to be even more apparent probably midway through next year, is that people in the NFT community are pretty much ready to go through their kind of meme coin era that just happened. Right? Meme coins started in 2013, and it took them almost 2 cycles to get to their kind of application era. NFTs, go back to Namecoin and stuff, but really didn't start capturing a lot of attention until 2017, right, with Ethereum and such. And I know some came before, but 2 cycles later, we'll be where we're at it now, where the NFT application era is going to take place. And so we're positioning for that. We've been positioning for that for over a year. And so when that time comes, we do hope that application that we do release will be kind of like what the pump fund is today, right? There's going to be a pump fund of NFTs of some sort. It's not going to be a launch pad. It'll be something different. TokenWorks is positioning themselves to be that. We would also like to have our hat in the arena for something like that. We obviously own the largest NFT bridge, so we do have capabilities that nobody else does have, and it's unlikely to have. Although Layer 0 has their NFT bridge with OFTs, and ApeChain has one with the shadow stuff. We're the only ones who could do it with Bitcoin assets and UTXO assets. And so, yeah, we do have an edge in some places. So positioning ourselves there, I would hope for that to be live next year. So we have that NFT cross-chain NFT application. Hustle and Emblem are merged, and then migrations continue to proliferate. Would be kind of like, yeah, we made it. And at that point in time, the Cross-Chain Ventures, which is the parent company of all of them, is probably one of the more valuable companies in the industry.
I see that. I see you guys accomplishing that, honestly, after what I saw this year. And this is my last thing for you, because I know we're getting close to time here. Maybe a little give back what you could do to the space, because we do get some builders that listen in from time to time. But we had a great meeting with you the other day, but maybe you could give a little advice on being versatile and flexible of survival. You guys, prime example of that this year. Amazing job that you guys did, but maybe you can give a little feedback to help that builder that's struggling out there.
Yeah, I think it's really kind of first. So if you're a product builder and application builder, the first thing you have to do is get to the foundation of what makes you valuable and the opportunity that you have, right? And so for us, when we built Migrate Fun, I'll just use it as an example. There was a point where it's like, if something's not figured out here, then this is going to be over by the end of the year. And so we assess, and it's like, what do we have to do to continue to survive, right? Actually, Jensen Wang from NVIDIA has like this famous speech where he's like, the key to becoming success is surviving, and just making sure that you just make it to the next round, and that's kind of our process. And so when Migrate Fun was built, we had this speech of deciding on what we had to do. And we said, well, if we want to make it to the next round, the one thing we have to do is migrate this token. Like, that's going to give us new eyeballs, new attention, new speculation. Then we have to figure out, how are we going to do it? And so then once we figure out how to do it, we looked around and said, is there anybody else in a similar situation that could use this tool? And so we went out and just started DMing people. And I think you just have to be relentless and being fearless. And what I mean by that is at the end of last year, at this same time, I DM'd probably 800 people for the Founder Vault sales for keys. And realistically, we got about 50 people, right, to participate in that, which is now moving, which is now moved to Hustle. And it's the same thing with Migrate Fun. When we created Migrate Fun, we DM'd every single launchpad. We DM'd every single AMM. We DM'd a lot of different AI companies. And ultimately, Radium was the one that responded to us and said, yes, absolutely, we would love this. And they brought in Bonk Fun. And we had a handful of AI companies say, oh, we were thinking of this idea as well. Glad you could do it. Yeah, let's do it. And then you take all of that and you piece it together in some way. And you just have to be aware that, nothing is perfect. And we're just a true definition of this is just get it out the door and iterate on it, right? Obviously, you don't want it to look like absolute shit. But at the end of the day, people want a working product, but also in the crypto industry, people want to be early, right? This is like a common phrase in crypto is that, right? If there's friction, that means that there's value. And if somebody sees that there's a product that kind of looks very rudimentary, but it works, value investors are going to look at this and say, wow, this is my opportunity to get in, because once this thing becomes seamless, this thing is going to go to the moon, right? And so that's kind of what all of our early believers of Tensorium did. They saw Hustle and they said, yeah, this is kind of the early version, but I'm going to write it out. Then it moved to Hustle, right? And then we started sharing the vision. So if you're a builder who, is losing runway or you need to make the pivot, never be fearful of the pivot. But you need to look and see what the value is, right? Like when I was talking, with you guys the other day about, how to progress, right? I would say, you look at what's your most valuable assets. If you're a media company, your most valuable assets is your network, the people who come on your show. So you think about how do I ascribe value to that? Is it doing some sort of capital raise within the company that gives people exposure to the network, right? Is it doing a token that somehow integrates all of them? And so you just got to think very aggressively and see where the market is going. I'm wrong very often. A lot of people on our team are wrong very often. But as long as you have somebody or a few people to talk back and forth with, then, it's the right decision. And you're not going to please everybody. At the end of the day, people are going to be upset for whatever the reason is. As long as, you remain respectable and, you continue to push forward, a lot of people will see value in that. And so for us, it's kind of the motto, continue to change and iterate. Like the most battle tested person in this industry is probably our founder, Shannon, who literally has gone through 5 or 6 token migrations in his career, as well as multiple 4 or 5 different products of different change, but they all built on one another. He started out with Circuit Builder, which turned into Emblem. Emblem then turned into Agent Hustle. Hustle then turned into Migrate Fun, right? And every single one of those pivots was with the market. And he said, hey, the market is telling me to go this way. So you follow the market and do that. And what a lot of people, they remain stubborn in saying, this is what I want. And therefore this is what the market's going to get. But no, it's, what I want is what the market wants. And so if you have a product, people are going to use it in a different type of way. And you have to be okay with that. A good example, and I'll kind of end it here, is, look at Casey and runes, right? Like I like runes and stuff, but one of the worst things that he did in my opinion was abandoning BRC20. There was severe adoption there. And I had actually told Domo and a bunch of the BRC20 guys to fork off of ordinals initially. I thought that was like the best thing once Casey was showing animosity towards it. But people wanted to use ordinals for BRC20 for fungible tokens, right? If he would have never launched runes and just stuck with BRC20, there probably would not be any of these other meta protocols to pop up. Everyone would have continued to use BRC20. People would have figured out how to make it better and it would have proliferated. But instead, he went against what people wanted with this protocol, launched runes, bifurcated the community, and has made it now kind of this every man for themselves, which is fine because I do think the Bitcoin economy will figure itself out over time. But because of that decision, instead of continuing to go with what the market wanted, he gave the market what he wanted, and it only worked temporarily.
Yeah, he gave the market what he thought was what he just wanted. He wanted it off his index, right? That's all he really wanted. He wanted the BRC20s, but BRC20s, yeah, I think you're right, 100%. I think BRC20s would still be strong. I think today if Casey didn't create runes. So, but this has been absolutely amazing, man. I apologize for sounding like Robert Kennedy, but but it's been awesome. Would love to give you stage one last time.
Bye, Hustle. Join us in the future. I saw today that the token was pumping. The community seemed pretty hyped. You know, I don't know who's buying it, but it seems like people are excited for the future. I'm excited for the future, and we have a lot to come. If you're interested in migrating your project from Solana, across Solana, or across any ecosystem, reach out and we'll be happy to help. Until then, I'll continue getting a few hours of sleep while I have to talk with all of these Asian exchanges at night, and then talk with the West in the morning. So until then, we'll be grinding it out. I appreciate it, guys.
Yep, appreciate it, Jake. We'll talk to you next week. Oh, you're on mute.
I was saying my voice got like way worse as the show went down for sure. But appreciate every single one of you guys, man. It's an absolutely awesome day. We got over 460 people on our X. Really appreciate every single one of you guys, man. Really awesome. Remember, we're here every single day, Monday to Friday. We'll be rocking with you guys next week for Monday and Tuesday. And Wednesday. No, we're off Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday's Christmas. And then we'll be back at it next Friday. So next week is short week for us, Monday, Tuesday, Friday. But we'll be here making sure you guys are well, caught up.
Informed. Yeah,
Informed,
for sure. For sure. Appreciate each and every one of you guys, right? Without you guys, we could not do this. And again, if you guys are watching us and you're newer to our community from the Pump Fun side, go follow us on X, right? And you can watch through Pump streams or X streams. It's up to you. But we appreciate all the support. Without you guys, we couldn't do this. Also, without our partners, we couldn't do it. So if you could check them out, we would greatly appreciate that. Emblem Vault is the interoperability layer of the Bitcoin ecosystem. If you are looking to jump your Bitcoin ordinals or NFTs like Rare Pepes, Nakamoto cards, those type of counterparty NFTs, you got to use Emblem Vault. Why? They've been doing it since 2021. They are the experts in this. They are the largest NFT bridge in the industry. You can actually take a loan out against your Taproot Wizards ordinal on the Gandhi application on Ethereum, which is the largest application for NFTs, borrowing and lending on Ethereum. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. The Emblem team is going to open this up to other layers and ecosystems, and Solana is one of those. HBAR is another one. So make sure you're paying attention to that. And speaking of Solana and HBAR, they have the best AI product in those ecosystems as well, with agenthustle.ai. You can use Agent Hustle for free right now. There's a free subscription level, but minimal prompts. So you get a couple prompts and tool sets, right? But you can taste it, get a little taste of it, right? Test it out there. You can ask Hustle, give me some low cap gems in whatever ecosystem you want. Like I said, Hedera or Solana or BSC. He'll bring back some options for you and why he thinks that these are solid options. You can also use Hustle for conditional trading as well. You can set buy and sell limit orders. He'll take care of those, execute them while you are out and about, taking care of whatever you need to take care of, right? But like I said, that free subscription level is there for you to test it out. And then if you want the more tool sets and more prompts, you got to level up to the paid subscription, right? And then you can use the Hustle token, which is the single token that powers the entire Emblem ecosystem. And you get a 30% discount if you use that Hustle token to pay. Make sure you check out all their subscription levels and all the features that Hustle has. There's tons that I didn't even go into, but make sure you check it out there at agenthustle.ai. And then lastly is their Migrate Fun product. We went over this today in the segment, but they are in their current third cohort. So this team has been proven to be the service provider for migrations. Right now, it's majority pump migrations in this cohort, but everything going smooth. I ain't gonna lie, Shizzy and I was a little nervous for the team, because whenever snipers, they're very smart, and this team executed flawlessly with that migration. So they were able to avoid the snipers there. But check it out if you're interested in migrating your token and your community to another launchpad or to your own LPs. You can check out the current migration or go to migrate.fun. Reach out to Jake, one of the team members, ask him any questions you have. They'll walk you through the entire process. And then head over to emblem.vision to learn about all the products I just broke down for you guys. And then Merlin Chain is uniting Bitcoin's strength through the power of their AI with their Wizard version 2.0 that guides you through the entire Merlin Chain ecosystem. It can swap for tokens outside the ecosystem as well. All you got to do is have some Merlin Chain Bitcoin in your Merlin Chain wallet, which is a MetaMask wallet, or you can use a Bitcoin wallet. because they are a Bitcoin layer 2, right? So you can use Unisat or X first. You got to have some Merlin Chain Bitcoin in there, and then you can swap for Solana tokens or BSC tokens. The wizard will walk you through that. But going back to Merlin Chain's ecosystem, it can swap for you. It can stake for you as well. And speaking of staking, they have a proof of stake security model that powers their chain, and you can participate in 3 ways. The first way is staking Bitcoin to earn Bitcoin. I said that correctly. You can stake Bitcoin to earn Bitcoin. That is a hot product that people are looking for right now. And Merlin Chain has a great product. Their first staking vault ended September 30th. They are 3-month-long staking vaults. They got 17% APR. So all their stakers got 17% APR paid out in Bitcoin for their Bitcoin they staked. The current staking vault is ending January 8th. And they're going to shoot for around that same amount, right? Minimum 8%, maximum 21%. You can still get a couple days in right now, but if you want to wait, you can wait until they open the 3-month staking vault after that, right? And they'll always try to shoot for that great APR for staking your Bitcoin there. And then 2 options for staking the Merlin Chain token, which is a hot token. It's shown so much strength through this kind of downtrend that the entire market's gone through. But the first option is the day-to-day called the flexible staking option. 15% APR you earn. You can claim your rewards every single day, roll them up in a compound interest staking strategy, sell them, keep them in your wallet, whatever you want to do. If you do want to withdraw your Merlin Chain tokens, 7-day cooldown period. Just know that that's a normal part of their protocol there. And then the last staking option is the bonded 6-month lockup period. But you get 45% APR, which is why you get such a high APR, because it is locked up for 6 months. But the cool thing is you can actually claim those rewards daily as well. Do whatever you want with them as well, like roll them up, keep them, sell them, whatever you want to do, right? So head over to merlinchain.io to check out their entire ecosystem, all their products with staking, and make sure you follow them on X as well so you can keep up with their latest and greatest updates. They just got listed as well on the perp side of Coinbase yesterday. So again, congrats to their team. And then our last partner, which is our newest partner, is satsman.fun, which is the fun meme runes launch pad on Bitcoin Layer 1. They leverage ICP's tech stack, which is amazing because ICP has their own Bitcoin node that can scan Bitcoin. That's how they're able to make it as native as possible, right? So right now they're starting off with the 3 legacy runes tokens that they launched. The team put these out there. You got the 7Z that's in the lead right now. And then you got Landwolf, which is the Matt Fury. I got it right this time. Matt Fury, which is the creator of Pepe. This is one of the... I forgot what it's called, the Boys Club group that he created over there, right? So, and then the last one is All In Bitcoin. So you go over there, check it out. They're still being minted out right now. It's a really cool gamified mechanism. And then they're going to open this up to have other people be able to launch your own tokens, right? So you want to go to satsman.fun, and then you will click on launch once that's open. But right now, you just go to satsman.fun, the homepage, scroll to the bottom, you can see the 3 Genesis tokens there. And we appreciate you guys for checking out our partners and supporting us, because it does support us when you just trade the Pump Fund token. We don't ask you guys to do that, but that supports us and keeps us going. And during the bear market, we need everything we can get. And we thank you guys so much.
Yeah, and we're going to try to burn 90% of that token, right? So over time, using Pyro and everything they're doing with the sponsors. So in the future, our sponsors are going to look a little different. They're going to come through Pyro, and every time they do purchase an ad on our show, we will use half of that money to buy back and burn that token, the OCRM token over there. Real quick with Satsman, we're going to be putting out a video. If you want to understand what is going on, I actually was lucky enough to sit down with the CEO over there, and he kind of explained to me what is going on and how to use the power and stuff. Because if you have your power at 100, you might be making a mistake. We're going to put a full video on that for you guys and really break down exactly what I think you should be doing when you contribute to this ecosystem for sure. And real quick too with Pump Fun. Yagobi mentioned that we are streaming over here. It's our first week really streaming, our first 2 days really. So if you guys are interested in looking over here, when we do get a certain amount of money, we will buy DEX. You guys seem to be all working with DEX Screener for some reason. I don't know, but that's all you have in here is pay DEX, pay DEX, pay DEX. I don't get it. I really do not get why you guys want us to pay this company for something that is useless. Honestly, you can see everything on Axiom, just putting the contract information actually better. So I don't get what the obsession for paid DEX is, but if we do make enough money through the stream and you guys want it, we will definitely pay your people, I guess. I don't know. I guess really Dex Screener is affiliate from you guys. I don't get it. But anyway, you guys have a few more minutes and wouldn't mind checking out OnChain Revolution.io. We have some of the best articles dating all the way back to 2023. If you know someone just entering the space, please send them our website. Really feel like you can help them get started and code up to where we are today. If you guys are interested in Merlin Chain and kind of learning why that token has been so strong and how it got listed on Coinbase just recently for the perps, definitely check out our article here. We'll really break through exactly what Merlin Chain is all about. Very bullish on them. We got article on Omni, article on the Fed. Check them out all here. You guys can really get caught up on what has been happening the last couple of weeks. If you guys need a VPN, I highly recommend Nord to use stuff like MEXC or Hyperliquid or even Polymarket in some places. You do need a VPN. I set mine in Italy. It seems like it's the fastest server. I like it. I actually get Italian TikTok when I do that because I'm changing my geolocation on my phone to a different place, all using NordVPN. Highly recommend that. $2.99 a month. Can't beat that. Lock it in for 2 years. You get an extra 3 months. So you lock it in $70. You get it for 2 years. You lock in 3 months, and it definitely helps the show. So definitely lock into that if you're interested in that. And if you're looking for a Christmas present for yourself and you need a new hardware wallet, we highly recommend Ledger. We are an affiliate of Ledger, so purchasing here also helps the show here. Get yourself a Ledger, 50% off right now as well. If you go to the Ledger site, you're not getting that price. Only through our link right now. You guys can get it for $74. I like the Nano X, but you have deals on these other ones as well. I bought my Nano X for $130, so you guys are getting a deal at $74. So lock that deal in as soon as possible. Remember, guys, we are live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, and 3 p.m. UTC. Check us out all week, guys, and until Monday.
Peace.
OnChain Revolution roll call. Market recap. You not bullish enough, no. You're not bullish enough, no. Look at the price go. Bitcoin control. Why you still coping? Price action rolling. Don't fall for bear trap. Swapping indexes and putting it up in the sex. I can take profit right now. OnChain is where I be now. You can never look back. They don't want you to know. How do the market react? Fear and greed gotta adapt. Now we bridging the tokens and arching the network right now. You know how crazy we are. Nookies are savages now. They know how crazy we are. Chain abstraction, main attraction. OnChain Revolution.